Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Rebekah Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan Elrom.
In our top story, U.S. President Donald Trump has vowed to make Iran pay for killing U.S. soldiers stationed in the Middle East. CENTCOM confirmed that at least 3 American soldiers were killed in Iranian strikes on U.S. bases throughout the region last week. President Trump said every time Iran kills an American soldier, they will pay for that killing many times over. He said he passed this directive to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Daniel Kaine, and to every leader in the American military. This comes as the White House issued a global caution alert, warning that Iran and its proxies may target American interests overseas. The radical Islamic regime is becoming increasingly desperate to remain in control and has reportedly resorted to using chemical weapons on its enemies. Yochanan has more on that.
Yes, Rebekah, the Kurdistan Freedom Party, known as PAC, claims that Iran targeted one of its bases with a white phosphorus drone attack. PAC issued a statement saying, based on witness observations, medical examinations, and the extensive fires caused at the targeted sites, the munitions employed in the drone attack are believed to have been white phosphorus. It went on to claim that this act is not only a grave crime, but also a clear violation of the fundamental principles of international humanitarian law. PAC urged the UN Security Council, the United Nations Human Rights Council, the Red Cross, and all relevant institutions to take the legal measures necessary to hold Iran accountable.
The Lebanese armed forces have taken control of 3 pilot zones in southern Lebanon, paving the way for an Israeli withdrawal from the former Hezbollah enclave. The U.S. State Department announced that the LAF deployed to the pilot operation zones in place of Israeli troops. The program launched in 3 villages. One of them, Zwatar al-Gharbia, is partially located inside of Israel's buffer zone and is the only pilot zone secured by Israeli troops. The State Department hailed this milestone as a direct outcome of recent negotiations between Jerusalem and Beirut in Rome. It said the United States will continue working closely with both parties to implement the framework for a successful conclusion.
Tehran has been working to clear debris and repair damage to the heavily fortified CPAC nuclear facility badly damaged in U.S. and Israeli airstrikes. Israeli intelligence officials believe the Iranian regime moved thousands of nuclear centrifuges to the CPAC mountain facility following the 12-day war in June of 2025. Satellite images have shown a flurry of activity at this site, indicating that Tehran is working to covertly rebuild its nuclear weapons program within the heavily fortified location.
The U.S. State Department has accused the Palestinian Authority of attempting to trick the international community into believing it had stopped payments to convicted terrorists. In February, PA leader Mahmoud Abbas agreed to end the pay-to-slay program that rewards Palestinian terrorists and their families with generous monthly stipends. The State Department has rejected a recent audit of the Palestinian Authority and accused the PA of operating clandestine bypass channels that it created under the international community's radar. It said rather than providing evidence that the terror payments have stopped, the Palestinian Authority is disguising the blood money as fake wages, pensions, and cash payments.
Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar has accused Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood of funding the Gaza aid flotilla. Sa'ar recently addressed the global conference countering left-wing terrorism in Washington, D.C. He presented evidence proving that Hamas was secretly behind the global Samud flotilla and used it for its own murderous agenda. Sa'ar said Hamas documents seized by the IDF indicate financing, operational involvement, and covert ownership of the flotilla vessels through a Spanish shell corporation. He added that the Muslim Brotherhood, alongside Hamas, used that front company to fund and direct the flotillas. Sa'ar accused global flotilla organizations of whitewashing terrorism and giving legitimacy and civilian cover to a terrorist organization and their goals.
The Hamas terror group has elected a new leader for its political bureau. Khalil al-Hayya is the first person appointed to this position since terror mastermind Yahya Sinwar was eliminated in Gaza in October of 2024. Since then, most of Hamas's senior leadership has been eliminated by Israel. Haya fled the Gaza Strip shortly before the October 7th massacre and has been directing Hamas terror activities from the lap of luxury in Qatar ever since.
U.S. President Donald Trump has declared that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will not be arrested while in the United States of America. This comes after anti-Semitic New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani threatened to arrest the Israeli leader while he attends the UN General Assembly in September. Mamdani has falsely accused Netanyahu of war crimes and said Netanyahu belongs in the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Trump responded to Mamdani, saying Netanyahu is fighting against the Islamic Republic of Iran, which recently killed 52,000 innocent protesters, and Iran has spent the last 47 years killing American soldiers. He said the only ones who should be arrested are the people that led Iran into this unprecedented spiral of death and destruction. Mamdani later admitted that he had no authority to arrest Prime Minister Netanyahu.
The federal government of Belgium has adopted a royal decree banning Israeli imports from Judea and Samaria. Belgium now joins Spain, the Netherlands, and Ireland in discriminating against products produced by Jews in the biblical heartland. Member of Knesset Sharon Haskel responded to the decision, saying Belgium has reached a point of no return. She said Israel will continue exporting products from Judea and Samaria to countries that choose to import innovation, quality, and technology, while Brussels can continue importing radical Islam.
The Israeli Security Cabinet has approved the allocation of 1.3 billion shekels to fund the establishment of dozens of newly approved Jewish communities throughout Judea and Samaria. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich said this move is strengthening the security of the State of Israel, killing the idea of establishing a terrorist state in the heart of the country, and strengthening our hold on Judea and Samaria. He explained that the funds will be used to establish infrastructure and housing in pioneer neighborhoods, and that an additional 1 billion shekels would be approved to pave roads to the new communities.
Incoming Colombian President Abelardo de la Espriella announced that his government intends to strengthen relations with Israel. Incoming Colombian Foreign Minister Omar Bula Escobar recently met Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar in Washington. They agreed on the full restoration of diplomatic and economic relations between their countries and on the immediate appointment of ambassadors. Escobar confirmed that his government intends to open an embassy in Jerusalem after de la Espriella's inauguration in early August.
The Israel Antiquities Authority has announced the discovery of wooden beams in Jerusalem believed to have been burned during the destruction of the first Jewish temple in the year 586 BCE. Archaeologists excavating in the city of David have unearthed burned sycamore beams they believe served as the roof of an inner courtyard in a building from the First Temple period. This rare, well-preserved Iron Age wood offers evidence of Jerusalem's destruction by the Babylonians. Excavation co-director Efrat Bacher said, "The find is deeply moving and gives you the feeling that you are witnessing the very moment of the destruction of Jerusalem." The discovery was announced on the eve of Tisha B'Av, the day marking the destruction of both Jewish temples.
Jews around the world fasted and mourned on Thursday during the saddest day in Jewish history, known as Tisha B'Av. The 9th day of the Hebrew month of Av is regarded as the worst day on the Jewish calendar due to many tragedies that occurred on this date. Most notably, Tisha B'Av marks the destruction of the first temple by the Babylonians and the second temple by the Romans, leading to the exile of the Jewish people from the land of Israel 2,000 years ago. Other catastrophes include the commencement of the First Crusade, massacres of medieval Jewish communities, and the day that Jews were expelled from Spain during the Inquisition. The Nazi approval of the final solution and the deportation from the Warsaw Ghetto also happened on the 9th of Av. In Israel, the evening of Tisha B'Av is traditionally marked by public readings of the biblical books of Lamentations and Job, and a collective march around the outer walls of the Old City. It concludes at the Western Wall, where faithful Jews pray for the temple to be rebuilt and the Jewish people to be restored to Jerusalem in its entirety.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Sara Friedman. She's the CEO of the World Jewish Congress. Sara, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Josh.
Tell our viewers a little about what is the World Jewish Congress?
The World Jewish Congress is exactly that. It's a congress of over 100 Jewish communities around the world. And by communities, I mean Jewish communities in over 100 countries around the world. We bring them together to have a global Jewish voice and to work on different issues that Jews across the world are facing together by advocating for each other and helping each other. So instead of being a small minority of the entire world, we can be a little bit of a larger minority.
So what are the three main issues the World Jewish Congress focuses on?
Anti-Semitism, safety and security in governments for the communities that live there, and a new focus. I mean, it's always been fighting anti-Semitism, but I think we really need to focus on our pride, on our Jewish pride and the strength of our people.
Anti-Semitism is spreading like wildfire around the world. What is the World Jewish Congress doing to combat that?
We work in a number of spaces. We work with various governments to understand what is actually harmful. We work with the big tech companies on their content moderation to understand what's hate speech. And we're really working with all the diplomatic channels. We're in the UN. As hard as that is, we are still there. We are in the EU, in Brussels. We work in, in various big spaces where diplomatic channels live.
You mentioned that anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism are really the same thing. Is the World Jewish Congress taking a bold stand on defending Israel?
The World Jewish Congress has always supported Israel, always supported the Jewish homeland and the rights of the Jewish people to have a statehood. And also, we're working really hard right now for Jewish youth to empower them and feel comfortable in their Zionism.
A lot of the work you do is talking to ambassadors, world leaders. What are you hearing from them?
They support Israel. They support our right to be here. They do understand where we're coming from. It's been a very rough couple of years. Unfortunately, the neighborhood we live in is really difficult to do it in a normal process. So, they're cautious about what's going to be in the future, and there's just a limit that they say that they can keep blanketly supporting. So we work very hard to shore up those relationships and to make sure that they understand details and challenges on the ground.
You live in New York City, and it's no secret that your mayor is an anti-Semite. Mondami has been very clear that he hates Israel. He has not done anything to protect the Jewish community. Are you worried that this is a prototype for politicians around the world?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And specifically in the United States, you do see more and more candidates popping up that have these type of agendas. They've politicized Israel completely. They've politicized things as simple as Israel bonds, which for many years, I don't know if you know, I worked there, but for many years, I mean, it's an amazing investment. It's an investment in Israel, and it's a good, it's a good return on your money. It's never been an issue with local governments and treasuries, and now it's become something that people run on. So you see just the whole pattern of constantly trying to politicize Israel, and it's working for some of them that have constituents that are anti-Semites, anti-Zionists, anti-Israel, and it's working for them.
We're used to seeing anti-Semitism in Europe, but in America, the rivers aren't full of Jewish blood like in Europe. The Americans have always stood with Judeo-Christian values and Israel and the Jewish community. Are we seeing a real deterioration there, or is it not something so severe that we have to be so concerned about it right now?
I like to veer towards optimism, and, I like to see, I speak with great people that are friends across the board, and I'd like to think that it's not going to go in that direction. However, like I said, within Europe and with, many countries around the world, it really depends on who's being elected and how they're being elected and who their constituents are. And there's been a lot of effort to bring in people that are very divisive, and they are using Israel and anti-Semitism as a tool.
It is Christians, not countries, that stand with Israel. It's Christians who bring their countries to
Correct.
Israel. So what is the World Jewish Congress doing to reach out to our greatest ally, the Christian community?
We have an interfaith department, I guess, or interfaith relations, that we work across the board with different leaders. We have an office in the Vatican. I think we're the only Jewish organization that has an office in the Vatican City. And in general, we work with different groups on understanding, bridging the gaps, bringing people here. I myself bring a number of delegations, U.S. federal judges, law professors. I like to stay in the law space, but most of them are not Jewish, and they come and they give lectures afterwards at their churches and so forth. And I think the biggest thing you can do is bring people here. So we try to do a lot of that.
A lot of Christian communities said never again after the Holocaust. Are you seeing an uptick in how they're standing with the Jewish communities on the local level?
They're standing on a local level. I would like for it to be a little bit louder, their support, everyone's support for that matter, because I think that the Jewish communities in most areas are feeling very afraid right now, and very marginalized. And it would be great for their friends and allies to stand up louder. Again, like I said, I'm optimistic. Most people I meet on a one-on-one basis, of course, are super supportive. But I think we need to go to the streets more together. I think that the Christian community and the Jewish community should be as loud as the anti-Israel groups are, and do more together. And I think that would be helpful.
Sarah, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
Just that we're in this together. I mean, hate and anti-Semitism and anti-Christian values, these are things that are growing, and they're trying very hard to divide us. And when we stand together and we work together, we win. We're unstoppable. So let's just constantly create more spaces that we should be working together.
Thank you, Sarah, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning into Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
And now the truth from Zion.
In February 2026, Reza Pahlavi, the son of the last Shah of Iran, addressed CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference in Washington. It was the first time a prominent Iranian opposition figure had appeared at a major American conservative gathering since the Islamic Republic seized power in 1979. His appearance was a political statement as much as a speech. CPAC attracts the political coalition that is aligned with U.S. President Donald Trump and his administration's approach to Iran. Pahlavi used the platform to argue that military and economic pressure on the regime must be paired with active, sustained support for Iran's democratic opposition. He told the audience that the Iranian people were not the enemy of the West. They were potential partners waiting for the conditions that would allow them to act. He called for a policy framework that treats regime change not as a destabilizing outcome to be feared, but as the prerequisite for the regional stability that decades of engagement have failed to produce. The CPAC appearance accelerated a process of political engagement with Washington that had been building since the 2022 protest in Iran. Congressional members on foreign affairs and national security committees had been meeting with Pahlavi's representatives and reviewing the detailed transition documents his team had developed over the years. These documents outline mechanisms for a post-regime political structure, including a transitional charter guaranteeing civil rights, a process for releasing political prisoners, competitive elections with international monitoring, and a constitutional assembly to write a permanent governing framework. When the 12-day war erupted in June 2025, Pahlavi moved immediately into public-facing activity directed at the Iranian population. He issued statements in Persian throughout the conflict. He addressed Iranian citizens and security personnel rather than foreign governments or media audiences. His consistent message during the fighting was unambiguous. The airstrikes were directed at the regime's military infrastructure, not at the Iranian people. He gave interviews to major international broadcasters throughout the war, making arguments with particular force. First, that the distinction between the Iranian government and the Iranian people was not a diplomatic courtesy. It was a factual description of a population that had been actively resisting its own rulers for years at enormous personal cost. Second, that military action without a credible political alternative would ultimately fail to secure the gains it produced. Destroying nuclear facilities is necessary, but it is not enough. Without a viable path for Iran's political transition, a weakened regime can still survive, reconstitute, and rebuild, as the Islamic Republic has demonstrated repeatedly across 4 decades of pressure. As part of the campaign, diaspora organizations were coordinated to distribute Persian language content across the platforms Iranians use to access uncensored information, platforms the regime blocks but cannot fully suppress. The Iranian government responded to Pahlavi's visibility during the war with a campaign of escalating attacks. State media published material accusing him of coordinating directly with Israeli military intelligence. Regime-affiliated channels broadcast threats against him and members of his extended circle. Every attack from Tehran followed the same pattern the regime applies to every credible opposition figure. Every attack had the same effect of increasing rather than diminishing interest in Pahlavi's platform among Iranians following events from inside the country. His relationship with Israel was established publicly during his 2023 visit to Jerusalem. He stood at Yad Vashem on Holocaust Remembrance Day, placed a prayer at the Western Wall, and met with senior Israeli officials. It gave him a distinct and visible position in the regional diplomatic conversation during the war.
The Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi is working to bring freedom to Iran. His bold speech at CPAC was a blueprint for peace in the Middle East.
The question that emerges is whether the world's democracies will now match the resolve they demonstrated militarily with the political commitment required to support what comes next. Reza Pahlavi has spent 47 years preparing for that conversation. He is ready to have it. Time will tell if the governments with the power to make a difference are ready to act. From Jerusalem, this is The Truth from Zion. Up next, shining light from Israel.
Located in southern Israel, very close to the Mediterranean coast. Welcome to Sderot, a city of many colors, culture, good food, historical sites, heritage sites, and excellent tourism. What a beautiful view. Look from here. You can see in our western side the Mediterranean Sea. From this hill, we can see very clearly the Eretz Pleshet, the land of the Philistines during the Bible times. If we look this side, we can see the city of Sderot, but you know, it reminds me a story from the Bible. When Samson, the hero Samson, fight against the Philistines over there, he take off the Gaza gate and walk from here to Hebron. And in the middle of the way, the city of Sderot. A lot of tourists, as you can see, come to visit our beautiful area. The awesome development of the city of Sderot. People around the country, people around the world, Jewish from all the world, come to build their home in the Bible state of Eretz Israel, of Israel, especially here in Sderot. Welcome to Sderot Museum. This museum was established by the government of Israel, and it was established also by the municipality of Sderot. This museum tells us many stories, but in this room, as you can see, we have the music story of Sderot. When the State of Israel was established in 1948, many people around the world wanted to come and make emigration, make aliyah to come to Eretz Israel. People came to Sderot from Morocco. My parents came from Morocco. People came from Iran. People came from Egypt. People came from the Soviet Union. So people came from all over the world. And here in Sderot, what happened here is a melting pot that make this beautiful music, as you can see here, a mixed music from all the world. You can come to this museum and you can enjoy the music that go out from Sderot. In this room, you can see the history of Sderot from the beginning of the Sderot until these days. But now we use this room to teach music, to make movies, to make shows, to bring young people here to learn about Sderot. The story of Israel is the story of the Israeli nation returning back from all around the world after 2,000 years. And this Israeli nation bring with them a beautiful culture, and Sderot is even more than that. When the State of Israel was established, the State of Israel, the government had to deal with millions of immigrants around the world, and one of the solutions was to build those kind of transit point. When my parents came from Morocco into this transit point, they used those tools. I remember when in Shabbat or in the Chagim, the Jewish festivals, when we want to drink cola, and we use these sipholux to drink soda. A very special caricature from Israeli newspaper during the 15th. You can see here like a melting pot, a great machine, and many kinds of Jews come all around the world, come into the melting pot, and what we have in the other side, the tzabar, the classic Israeli with the spatial hat, with the spatial language in his homeland. Thank you for watching. Next time you visit Israel, make sure you visit Sderot and come to see the beautiful melt pot of the beautiful culture here in Sderot.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Rebekah Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan Elrom, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.